and keep those people recognized and recognize your business continues to run well because those folks are so dedicated.
Yeah, that's just a great way of thinking about it. In fact, I was thinking about a friend of mine. I was just talking with her over the weekend, and she works for a small advertising agency, and that's a pretty turbulent kind of environment. She's been laid off in her 25-year career probably 5 times because it's very client-based. Work comes and it goes. But she's learned over the years that she really wants to stay with the organization that she's in. And she was telling me over the weekend that things had really slowed down there, that they were once again looking at layoffs. But she had a very different approach this time. What she decided to do was go and speak with her boss and say, look, I'm a project manager, but I think I can help you sell something. And so she's moving to partner with one of the lead salespeople there. She also, and this is a very strange thing, but I was just thinking about this when you talked about rewards. She went to the HR leader and said, look, before you let me go, if anything is going to happen, why don't we talk about me taking a pay cut? I really care about this organization and I want to stay. And I just thought that kind of proactive approach is somebody who they probably will keep if things do get worse, because they know that she cares about what she's doing. She wants to unleash her talent in a very different way to help however she can. And things will go back up. That's what we do know, and it's kind of staying the course during this time. So that's a great example of that. Let's finally talk about inspiring trust during this time. I mean, I'm thinking about my friend who had such a candid conversation with her HR department. You could either say, well, she's crazy, or you could say, boy, there must be a really high trust environment that she works in to be able to go and do that. How do you think that people can inspire greater trust during a difficult time?
Yeah, let's dip in one layer into what we know makes up trust. It's both integrity and intent. So it's both a function of telling the truth, being honest, but it's also what is your intent or your agenda behind what you're saying. And so inspiring trust on the integrity level, as we kind of mentioned, was telling people the straight story, letting them know what's going on, giving them the scoop. Because inevitably, if you're not talking to them, as we said, they're going to assume the worst.
That's right.
But the other is intent. And, as we said, you can't fool people. They know what's going on. What is your intent in letting them know what's going on? If you're trying to, quote unquote, calm them down, they're going to read that, and frankly, they're going to feel manipulated. Your intent needs to be clarity. Let's let people know what's going on. Leaders frequently will be concerned of, if we tell them the way things are, they're going to be so worried that we could lose them from the business. Where are they going to go? Everybody's having trouble. I mean, in fact, it's just the reverse. People generally have loyalty to their organization. Right. If they think there's trouble, they're going to engage and they're going to help. And so it's not like they're going to be able to escape this economic climate, first of all, by going somewhere else. And by the way, if you're not talking to them, they're thinking about leaving now because they think it's much worse, I guarantee you, than whatever it probably is, because they don't know. So in your intent being to give them clarity, give them understanding so they can make good decisions, and then in your integrity, give them this great scoop.
Well, Bill, just as we're finishing up, just thinking about some of these thoughts about how it's more important now than ever to be doing the basics of leadership. You want to just summarize some of those thoughts just in terms of what you think, if you could just give the 1, 2, 3 of what we've talked about today?
So first of all, just reinforce this idea that the 4 imperatives of great leadership are more true under tough circumstances than any other times. This is the time that it is required of leaders to stand up and do those things to a greater degree, to a greater level of excellence than ever before. So for individuals out there who might be watching this, or perhaps in the role of a facilitator,
right?
You're teaching people, you're teaching leaders right now. Reinforce this point to them. This is not something, great leadership is not something to be put aside in a turbulent time. It is something to be embraced more fully than ever before. 2, something that I think you can do is go to leaders with suggestions. Walk in their shoes for a minute and think about what's going on behind those closed doors. They're understandably concerned. They're watching revenues go down, costs are fixed perhaps, and so that margin is compressing out there. They're worried about their business. They're reading the Wall Street Journal just like we are every single day. They're just trying to make sure the business does well. For some it's not a matter of survival, but for everybody it's a matter of can we do well in this economic climate. So give them ideas. And there's a dual benefit from that. If you come forward with ideas to the leaders, one is they get the ideas and they might be valuable. But 2, they're people too. Right. And just the emotional benefit that they get from saying, you know what, my team's been thinking about this. I'll give you a little example. It saves a very little money in our company, but what a difference it made. A woman who supports me came to me. I do quite a bit of business travel, and she said, I've been thinking, you know, we're only a few miles here from the airport. If I drive you to the airport every time you travel and then come back and leave your car here, we could save those parking fees every time. Well, we may save $1,000 this year, but what's changing is the mindset for her coming up with ideas, and for me to know that the people that work with me have got this on the mind. They're trying to help too.
Right.
It's just a lift.
Yeah, it's a whole team that's in it working together to solve a problem.
Right, exactly.
That's terrific.
Exactly.
Bill, we obviously do a lot of different leadership training, but we also do some things for executives to help them understand this better. Do you want to talk about some of the things that we're going to do with executives?
Sure. I mentioned a couple times as we were speaking about Executive Leadership Week, and this is one of those events that you're describing. And in this event, we spend a week up in the mountains with Ram Charan, with Dr. Covey, with several of our leading consultants in the company. And the idea is to be able to let leaders go in and kind of shut the door, let their hair down a little bit. And while we have an agenda, it's also to just talk about leadership problems and challenges. And part of what we try to instill is just what we've been talking about today. What are the elements of truly great leadership, and when are they applied, and how are they applied? And I can tell you from sitting and having sat in these sessions in the past, very few, in fact, none of these people are people that I would say are rotten people. These are people that care about their companies and care about their people. But if there's shortcomings at all, it might just be that they just don't know what to do. Sometimes they've been so disconnected from the general workforce for such a long period of time that they've perhaps just lost touch a little bit with what motivates people. And part of what we teach there is this, as I mentioned, this whole person paradigm, the fact that you've got to take care of the whole person. The concept of paradigms, and the fact that if people's paradigms about work, about themselves, about leadership are wrong, then wrong decisions are going to be made. But if they can help change these paradigms as leaders, then what's going to happen is that people are going to be empowered to make the right kinds of decisions. So the reason we reached out to people like Ram Charan, and we use the work of Jim Collins and Fred Reichheld and others, is to bring in varying ideas. One, to give lots of ideas, but also to show, you know what, there's really one general set of principles. People matter, people are capable, and your role as a leader, your duty as a leader, is to find a way to reach in and unleash that talent and let them give their best. And that's, if we're successful in these events, as we have this one coming up in December, people will walk out of there saying, you know what, I think I've got untapped energy, talent, capability in my business, and I think we can do this. Or as the man from Porsche said, we might just have something.
No, we might just have something. Well, thank you, Bill. I think that we might just have something. I think that, you know, as we look at all of us, each one of us is a leader. I think that's one of the unique things about us at FranklinCovey is that we really believe that everyone is a leader. And in these turbulent times, going back to those basics and doing them even better is one of the most important things that we can do. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Thanks very much.